Florida's 60-day legislative session is over, and lawmakers have passed more than 250 bills. They've changed everything from how Floridians protest to allowing restaurants to serve alcohol to go. But I'm not here to talk about the various policy changes. Instead, I want to focus on how these bills came to pass. Because honestly, it's something. Basically, a bill is written by a sponsor, introduced in the House and Senate, it goes through a few committees, it's voted on by the entire House and Senate, and then the two chambers work out any differences between their two versions of the legislation. Once they pass an identical bill, it heads to the governor for his signature. If he signs it, a new law is born. Like the COVID liability bill, two versions were filed in their respective chambers. In the House, the bill raced through each of its committees, and by the first week of session, it was headed to the floor for a vote, where it passed. In the Senate, it was a similar story. The House then took up the Senate's expanded version, passed it, and sent it to Governor Ron DeSantis, where he signed it in a ceremony which included a live band. But often, the legislative process is more complicated than that. Take the transgender athlete bill, one of the most controversial bills passed by the legislature this session. The transgender athlete ban became law, but not as its own bill. It was tucked inside a completely different provision passed by the legislature. Let's break this down. The House and Senate filed their versions of the bill, which were slightly different. The House version was referred to 3 committees. In its first committee stop, the House sponsor amended the bill to change one word. That change caused the House to strip the bill of one of its committee stops.
I would take a trans sister over a bully on my team any day.
I have a trans friend named Sam, who's already bullied enough for being who he is.
This bill is a very harmful solution in search of a problem.
Opponents of the bill noted that with one fewer committee stop, the public would have one less chance to weigh in on the bill. They alleged that the House Republicans did this intentionally. Supporters of the bill said that bills get amended all the time, and when they do, their committee stops can change, which is true. At any rate, the bill was heard in its committees, where it passed, setting it up for a vote on the House floor.
Representative Tuck, thank you for bringing this bill, because allowing biological males to compete in women's sports diminishes that equality. And I ask for your vote and support as well. Thank you.
Democrats filed 18 amendments, all of which were rejected by the Republican-led House. The House voted to pass the transgender athlete ban along largely party lines. The Senate, meanwhile, was debating its own version of the legislation. In the first 2 committees, lawmakers voted to pass the bill after similarly emotional testimony from advocates. But in the 3rd committee, the bill hit a roadblock. It was never heard. This was an important moment for advocates. The legislation appeared to be dead. Hundreds of bills died this way. For whatever reason, a committee doesn't hear it, meaning it can't be taken up on the Senate or House floor, and it can't make its way to the governor's mansion. But then, things got wild. At about 4:45 on Wednesday, the 3rd to last day of session, House Republicans amended the transgender athlete bill onto completely different legislation. So instead of a bill, the transgender athlete ban was now an amendment. Democrats objected, saying the underlying bill, which had to do with charter schools, had nothing to do with a transgender athlete ban. So at this point, we're done with committees. We're only talking about the House and Senate floor, because the chambers are trying to work out the differences between a piece of legislation that's already made its way through the committee process. House Democrats tried to file 12.5 amendments onto the transgender athlete ban, which was now an amendment, but the House ran out of time to hear them. The House passed the transgender athlete ban amendment, attached it to the charter school bill, passed the broader bill, sending it back to the Senate. Senate Democrats tried to kill the bill too, saying it was unrelated to the larger legislation, but they too were unsuccessful. The ban amendment was attached to the charter school bill, the Senate passed it, and sent it to Governor Ron DeSantis. But that wasn't the end of it. Unbeknownst to seemingly all lawmakers, the Republican Senate sponsor of the charter school bill quietly changed one word of the measure, which delayed college athletes' ability to profit from their name, image, and likenesses until 2022. I think I need a different color. The legislature looked to be forcing Governor DeSantis to delay one of his past priorities in order to enact a new one. Governor DeSantis was an early and vocal supporter of the push to allow college athletes to profit from their name, image, and likenesses, but the legislature had just rushed through a bill which would delay their ability to do just that. And it was contained within the same piece of legislation that would ban transgender females from participating in women's and girls' scholastic sports. It was a genuine pickle. Luckily, there was a familiar fix. On the final day of the legislative session, Republicans attached yet another amendment onto yet a different piece of legislation, fixing their name, image, and likeness mistake. And if you're not familiar with what this bill does, it has to do with the state's university system, and don't worry, we've never mentioned it before. After some wrangling over an amendment to the name, image, and likeness fix, which, keep in mind, is itself an amendment, both the House and the Senate passed the broader bill and sent it to Governor DeSantis to be signed. And somewhere in there, lawmakers fought over how the NCAA threatened to boycott the state over the transgender athlete ban, which, as we now know, is an amendment to the charter school bill, which had to be fixed with the name, image, and likeness provision. And that is how a bill becomes a law.